So, welcome to Breaking the Cycle. My name is Dr. Chris Wildermuth. I'm an associate professor at Barry University, where I direct actually two programs. I direct the MS in Leadership and Innovation, the Masters in Leadership and Innovation, and I also direct an adult completion program that is designed for people who have experience at work and they've sometimes gone pretty far. My students are managers and supervisors. They've gotten positions of responsibility, but for whatever reason, they haven't gotten to finishing their degree. So if your organization offers tuition benefits and you're interested in that for your employees, please reach out to me or just, let's see, in the last page today, I'm going to have a link that takes you to the School of Business at Barry University and shows you where everything is, or reach out to me for information. Little bit about me. I don't know if you can see my background. I may have, I don't know, blurred it a little bit. Did I blur it? Is my background blurred, Joanne, or it's not?
No, it's clear.
Okay, then you can probably see my Mickey right behind me. Can people see my Mickey? Is there a Mickey there? Yes. Okay. Right. So I'm a huge Disney nerd. I'm originally from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I've been in the United States for like 2000 years. I'm not going to tell you how long because that would, I refuse to tell on the grounds it might incriminate me. But I have been in Florida for maybe 2.5 to 3 years. And recently I moved to Orlando. Yes, I moved to Orlando literally to be close to Disney. So I am quintessential Disney adult. This is a picture of me and my family at where was that? I think that's Magic Kingdom. So if there's anybody in the audience who likes going to the Disney parks, just put it in the chat and maybe we can get together sometime because I'm always up for a Disney trip and I only live about 10 minutes away. Some housekeeping. This presentation is being recorded so that we can share with colleagues who couldn't come today. The recording is going to be shared automatically once it's complete. There's an automatic system on Teams that just sends it to you. The SHRM number, in case you need the professional development code for SHRM, because of requirements with SHRM, I can only share that information at the end of the presentation. And also, I have that certification too, so I know how that works. You need some kind of documentation. So you will receive a letter after an email after this meeting saying, hey, thank you for attending. Here is the ID number for SHRM. If you do not get that, please contact my friend Joanne. The link, if you click there, you will get straight to Joanne's email. And the link to the presentation, can everybody see the link to the presentation in the chat? Because if they can't, perhaps Joanne, you could put that in again. And then you can get into the presentation. So I appreciate that. And so you will have the opportunity to ask questions during the session. I can't promise that I will be able to answer all of them at the end of the session. I will try. I'm trying to control time here. If I can't answer a question during the session because we can't get to it and it's super fast, then please send me an email. Joanne, if you would be so kind as to put my email in the chat so that people can contact me afterwards if they have any questions that I couldn't answer. There are also questions that maybe Joanne will be able to answer. The typical question is, hey, where are the PowerPoint slides? And yeah, when do I get the SHRM code? All right. So we're going to start right with what do I mean by toxic leadership? Well, not what do I mean, but what do experts mean by toxic leadership? I remember that when I posted this question on LinkedIn HR, which was recently, and by the way, for those of you who are not from LinkedIn HR, don't know what LinkedIn HR is. LinkedIn HR is a mega group on LinkedIn dedicated for the HR profession, to the HR profession. There are 1,500,000 members in that group. I've been involved with the volunteer moderation of that team for a long, long time. So I know the ins and outs of that group. And I asked on LinkedIn HR, hey, why is it that people follow toxic leaders? And I got very interesting answers. One of the answers was, I really don't like the terminology toxic leadership. That terminology is what you will actually find in the literature. But let me define what it is. And this definition is from a major expert in toxic leadership. Her name is Dr. Jean Lippman Blumen. She is from, I think she works for the University of Iowa. I hope I'm not getting this wrong. And she has written a book called The Allure of Toxic Leaders. Part of her work is, why is it that people follow toxic leaders? And most importantly, why is it that people follow toxic leaders willingly? Here's how Dr. Lippman Blumen, sorry, defines toxic leadership. Individuals whose destructive behaviors and dysfunctional personal qualities generate a serious and enduring poisonous effect on the individual's families, communities, whomever it is that they lead. So pay attention to some of the words in there: destructive behaviors, dysfunctional personal qualities. And one that I didn't highlight and probably should have is serious and enduring poisonous effect. So what Lippman Blumen says is, we're not talking about your run-of-the-mill poor manager, maybe a little disorganized, maybe has some faults like we all do, maybe a little bit of authoritarian, maybe a little bit of a micromanager. It's not about little frailties or being not that good. It's about like a true situation in which pretty much everything that I'm going to mention today is going to be present there. To me, what really fascinates me about the study on toxic leadership is not so much why they are there, because God knows, uh, I've been in the world of work for quite a number of years, and I've faced my, share of jerks, pardon my French. But it's not really why are there toxic leaders? It's why do we let them be there? Who enables them? Who allows them to be there? Who promotes them? Because those people are there and we all know they are there. So I think I'm going to, before I move on, I'm going to ask you to use the Canvas Live system, if you would, to let us know, have you ever had a toxic leader? And that would be under the description of a really, really bad leader. By the way, guys, the reason that I'm using Canva Live is that if I use the chat, it wouldn't be anonymous. And I wanted people to just be able to easily say, yeah, I've had a toxic leader, and not necessarily, yeah, see, and not necessarily say who they are. At least it's possible to do it anonymously. I know most of you are, maybe some of you signed in. Okay, so you can see, oh my goodness. So somebody just now said yes, multiple ones. Um, and by the way, when I asked, I've been doing a lot of work with toxic leadership with my students, both my graduate students and my undergraduate students, and I've been teaching for a while, 18 years to be more precise. And I've asked graduate students and undergraduate students in the past, have you had toxic leaders? Could you interview people in your life and ask them if they have had toxic leaders and if they can tell you a little bit about them? And nobody has ever had any difficulty finding interviewees. They find interviewees very easily, which is a little scary. I'm noticing here a few interesting comments. It's taken me 2 years to get to get a post, I imagine, after leaving that situation to be instantly triggered. Yes. If if the leader is bad enough, it can cause you can remember that situation afterwards. I don't like to use the word PTSD so as not to take it lightly. So I'm not using it on purpose. But what I mean is that it generates feelings of, I don't know, like every time you have a boss, you're going to think that that's going to happen to you again. And I'm seeing here, somebody just said toxic leaders stay in their positions because of leaders with bigger titles that keep them there. Absolutely, and we're going to go there in this brief presentation. Fernando just said how to counter the growing presence and influence of toxic leaders at all levels of our society. especially in politics in most developed societies. I'm going to try very hard not to get into politics, but yes, the question becomes, how do we avoid toxic leaders at the highest levels? And why are they there in the first place? All right, so moving on, I'm going to describe what toxic leaders actually mean. This is from an article that was playfully called Monsters, Inc. Igbokwe et al. Ngozi Igbokwe, Dr. Ngozi Igbokwe now, I'm proud to say, was my graduate student a while back. And in a class project, I asked all my students to interview, I think I asked everybody to interview at least 3 people about toxic leadership. And then we all got together, myself and my group of students, to write an article, which was like a really cool experience. And that article was published. Now I can't remember the name of the book. I'm very bad at that. But the article in the book was called Monsters, Inc. And some of this is coming from that article. If you'd like, in the letter that I send you afterwards, I can give you some of the references that I used, like Dr. Lipman Blumen, this particular article, so that you can find them if you're interested. According to the research that was done by myself and my students at that time, we identified 3 types of toxic leaders. And for each of them, I'm going to ask you if you've experienced just that characteristic alone. The first one is, we're going to call it the nightmare. The nightmare is the person who has absolutely no emotional control, the kind that is easily angered, needless to say, no emotional intelligence, capable of having bursts of anger in the middle of the day. I had a boss, and my very first boss. I was green. I was then an administrative assistant at a major TV network in Brazil, where I'm from. And this guy, he would yell bad words from his office. He would literally throw his telephone on the floor. I mean, the guy was a nightmare. And also, what people disclose is that those folks, they tend to berate people in public, which is obviously a no-no in the leadership world. So my question to you now is, have you ever experienced somebody like that, like the nightmare? And let's see what people say. Multiple ones again. I'm seeing a lot of those folks. In terms of toxic leadership, this is one of the most common ones. It's the guys, or I shouldn't say the guys, the people who cannot, they can't really handle the leadership position and the power that they have, and they don't understand that they need to control themselves. All right, next one. It's what we called in our research the pretender. Pretender is sneaky. The pretender has no authenticity or integrity. And what we found in our research is that that person can play different roles. So what a lot of people disclosed is, ooh, that person is great when it's just me. No, sorry. That person is great when it's like somebody super important in the organization. They're really good at that. They're really good at managing upwards. And showing themselves like some great person, but they're terrible with their employees. And the problem is that the people higher up don't see that side of them. So the pretender, again, have you ever worked for somebody like that who you could never know where you stand? Here's the interesting thing on the pretender, and that maybe could be an additional workshop that I learned later. There's an area of research that I'm really interested right now that is called a construct I'm calling moral safety. Moral safety is connected to the concept of psychological safety that maybe of you may have heard of. That is the uh, allowing yourself to be yourself at work without negative repercussions. Moral safety would be the permission to act morally at work without negative repercussions, which you would think is a given. You would think nobody would be prevented from being moral at work, but no. If you work for somebody like the pretender, actually doing the moral thing or trying to do the moral thing could bring negative repercussions. All right, next we have the runaround. The runaround, I'm going to say, from what I know of toxic leadership, having read a lot more on the topic from other, from experts in the field, I would call the runaround more in the realm of bad manager, just doesn't know what they're doing and not perhaps very annoying, by the way, but perhaps not as serious as the other two. The runaround is a person who changes direction all the time, gives very unclear instructions, has completely unreasonable expectations, and usually at the same time. So imagine somebody who has unreasonable expectations, maybe super perfectionistic, wants everything done absolutely perfectly, but is absolutely terrible in terms of giving feedback and presenting people with what it is that they need to know. So once again, have you worked for somebody like that? Let's see what people will say. This one I strongly suspect, yes, and somebody's saying multiple ones. So those people are also there. Now, I want you to imagine, remember what Libman Blumen said. Toxic leadership is not about just having a few problems. It's about having all those problems at the same time, and sometimes in pretty high levels. Okay, so now that we have defined toxic leadership, the next question is why would somebody follow a toxic leader? Or most importantly, I think I probably should have asked, why would somebody enable a toxic leader? Because here's the deal. These people, they're there for a reason. They get promoted. They stay there. One person, when I asked a question on linked HR in like a discussion item, why do people have toxic leaders to begin with? And somebody said, hey, even when you denounce that person, they get promoted because of it. It's almost like being a toxic leader becomes a good thing. So then the question is, why would somebody enable and promote a toxic leader? And here are some reasons. And by the way, these reasons, that's kind of fun. I took them directly from the answers that I got in the linked HR posting that was posted only maybe a couple of weeks ago. I got, I believe, 78 answers to that question. And then I organized those answers in code, in some kind of themes. The first reason that predictably is fear. And mind you, I asked why people follows a toxic leader, not necessarily why they follow the toxic leader willingly. Arguably, if somebody is afraid, it's not a willing situation. So, in terms of fear, these are some quotes from the discussion. People are scared of losing their livelihood. They're quiet because nobody wants to be the next target for a volatile leader with anger issues. Can you relate to that? I certainly can. Who would want a piece of that? So, people then start avoiding that person and avoiding actually doing anything about it. The next one, which is, I guess, the saddest one because it explains not only why people are following that leader, but why people above are enabling that leader. And that's the organization that is so focused on results, results, results that the very cynical answer is somebody is a rainmaker, they're going to stay there, even if they are a nightmare. And in my career, before being a professor, I was a consultant full time, leadership consultant, leadership trainer, traveled all over the world doing this. And what I saw a lot was people very honestly acknowledging, yeah, that I know this person is a nightmare. I know this person destroys morale, but they're a rainmaker, so they're going to stay there. So these are some of the comments that I heard. If someone brings in revenue, hits targets, maintains control, their behavior is overlooked. And then the second one that I thought was really interesting was this whole system that promotes performance and ignores toxicity, which I think is going to lead me to one of the next. I don't know if it's the next point or the one that comes next. Let me see. No, it's the one that comes after this one. The next one is lack of awareness. And what I mean by lack of awareness is not only awareness of the person that they are a toxic leader, even though, quite frankly, some toxic leaders are toxic on purpose, but some toxic leaders are toxic leaders, or at least a little bit toxic because they don't recognize they don't have enough self-awareness to see that they are toxic leaders. But the problem, though, is that oftentimes their toxicity becomes hidden. And when I talk about some things that organizations can do, one of the things you can do is precisely not allowing that toxicity to remain hidden. Because if you don't have some systems for employees to speak up, it's going to continue hidden. And the people above those leaders will never even know that that toxicity is there. And then that's the one that I was going to talk about, and that is the toxic enabling culture. So basically, the idea is that the culture is so focused on results and so little focused on ethics and integrity and treating employees with respect, no matter what they write on the wall about our employees are our biggest, whatever asset, that they allow people to stay there. And sometimes they allow these leaders to be there as shields so that they can be the bad cop, the bad cop, good cop, so that the top leaders don't have to do the quote unquote dirty work because there's somebody out there who can do it. Okay, so now what? I promised in this brief presentation I would offer some suggestions of things that you can consider in your organization. So here are some things to consider. The first one, this is from Barbara Kellerman. She has various books on bad leadership, toxic leadership, tyrannical leadership. Her work is excellent. Strongly recommend her. One of the things she says is you need to stop toxic leadership on its tracks. You need to stop those leaders before they get so much power that it's impossible to take them out. I just read another book by now what's his name? Ira Kalev, I think, who is an expert in followership and courageous followership. And what he says is there's a window to stop a tyrant in an organization, a tyrant in a country, a tyrant in the world, whoever. There is a limited window that you have for that. And after that, you can't stop them anymore. So basically, when you see the signs of toxicity, you need to get rid of that right away. The next one is to pay attention to situations in your organization in which power is so centralized that people stop having a sense of what's going on. And plus, there's nobody else to check the power of that leader. No matter how good we are, if we have nobody checking us, the chances is that we could become a little bit toxic. So it's important to have people who can check us. So your structures, pay attention to those. The next issue is about employee feedback. Am I talking about good old-fashioned 360 assessments that a lot of organizations don't do? Yes, but honestly, it can be even simpler than that. Does your organization have simple systems in which employees give feedback to their leaders in some anonymous way, in some safe way? And if the answer is no, there should be. How many organizations have systems in which the employees are evaluated, but the employees never evaluate anybody who is above them? That needs to stop. And also, a good practice is to allow employees to take part in the hiring of very important people in the organization. And finally, the last thing, and I know I only have a couple of minutes, so I'm going to go quickly. None of this is going to work if your organization does not work in what I call a culture of integrity, in a culture of moral safety, in a culture in which the values on the wall are really the values of the organization. And here's the thing, if your organization has beautiful values on the wall about how much it values the workplace and how employees are our greatest asset and how we're going to act with the utmost health, integrity, but fails to remove a rainmaker, all those values on the wall are a lie. And if your organization is willing to live with a lie, I guess that's their choice. But at the end of the day, that's what's causing all that. So I would urge all of you in listening to this to think about what kind of ethical development for leaders and for employees, for everyone, you can have in your organization to create a culture of integrity. And now at the time of AI, that's even more important. Finally, let's see, the next webinar in this series is Beyond Boxed Meetings, Enhancing Virtual Work and Team Collaboration. So I'm going to be talking about virtual teamwork, but I'm also going to be demonstrating some fun tools to do virtual collaboration that I personally use and that you may not have heard of before. By the way, I don't have an affiliate program, so when I promote these tools or present these tools, it's because I like them and I use them. And finally, of course, I have to make a plug for my university, the Inez Andreas School of Business and Public Administration. If you're interested in an online master program that allows you to be in contact with your professors in live Teams-led sessions and interact with your colleagues, but still work from wherever it is that you live, we have programs in leadership and innovation. That's mine. The MBA, the MS in Human Resource Development, and the Master in Public Administration. And that's all I had. Thank you so much. I suspect I didn't have time for Q&A. Please email me your, let me stop sharing here. If you have questions that I couldn't answer you because there wasn't enough time, or if there are questions in the Q&A that I need to answer, please send me an email at cwildermuth@berry.edu, and I will be very happy to answer your questions. And I hope to see you again next month, first Wednesday of the month, always at noon, and always a half an hour session on relevant leadership and technology sessions. Want to thank my colleague, Joanne. Joanne, thank you so much for being here with me and for bearing with me while I was solving all the technical problems. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. Really means a lot. Appreciate your presence. Goodbye, everybody.